Civil Freedoms as a Catalyst for Progress by Maddox Bill. So what sparked this question? Well, my main inspiration was the story of Eloise Cobble and Her by Melinda Janko. Eloise inspired this topic because she famously advocated for over 300,000 Blackfoot Native Americans because of the oppression and corruption they faced. She took this issue all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where after several years, justice was finally served and just compensation was given to all 300,000 beneficiaries. This serves as a powerful example of how civil rights and the ability of someone to stand up to injustices are essential for a just and civil society. If this had happened in a country without guaranteed civil rights, for example, in China, this issue may have been swept under the rug and no one would have been given any sort of compensation and the corruption would just continue. Some other of my inspirations was China's growth from one of the poorest countries to a global powerhouse that is now in competition with the United States. And my other inspiration was the rise of communism, which challenged the belief in happiness-driven prosperity. So why are countries with civil freedoms ending up more stable? Well, consider the benefits they bring. For freedom of the press, for instance, it is not just a right, but a powerful tool that can promote accountability and transparency. It enables informed decision-making, facilitates conflict resolution, and fosters economic stability. These factors are all essential for the long-term stability of a country, and similarly, political freedoms empower individuals to voice their opinions, engage with the government, and advocate for change. This sense of ownership in the political system is a key driver of societal stability and progress. So what are some examples of countries becoming unstable? Well, first of all, in the Soviet Union, according to Bertrand Potnov, who is a teacher of human rights at Stanford, ultimately, Gorbachev, the Soviet Union's current leader at the time, could not handle the forces he unleashed as he attempted to make reform to the suffering political system. But this backfired miserably, and a variety of independent groupings emerged that formed an incipient civil society, which was to champion the many rights causes they faced, and the effect of which was to challenge the Communist Party of the Soviet Union's monopoly on power. In this example, the downfall and instability of the Soviet Union came down to people wanting fundamental civil rights. And another example is with China, and Eve Carey, a graduate from the University of California with a master's in Asian studies, says there's also rampant corruption all around China, which has led to subpar construction, and in some instances, and in one instance, 70,000 people died. This corruption shows that either the country did not care for the people, the safety and well-being of its people, or they were unable to. But China's wealth and power shows that the second thing clearly wasn't happening, and it was just a negligence of their well-being for their people. So how can civil freedoms influence economic growth? Well, a graduate from NYU named Wenbo Wu with a degree in political policy, or in public policy, says that for most low-income countries, persistently high levels of economic freedom over a long period of time will lead to persistently high levels of economic growth, resulting in high levels of income. This not only supports the idea that civil freedoms are crucial for stability, but also highlights the potential for economic prosperity. And when individuals are given the freedom to thrive, they are able to. Even though it may take a long time, they will eventually live and prosper. And if the people of a country are prospering financially, then the country as a whole will gain power and wealth. Now we transition to our counterclaim. And Esquar Prasad, who is a senior professor of trade at Cornell, says that measured at the current exchange rates, China's GDP was $18.3 trillion in 2022, which was 73% of the US's GDP, and is 10 times more than the 7% of the US's GDP it registered in 1990. Although China as a country may be very wealthy, most citizens have a relatively poor quality of life and do not share the same wealth as the country. And Ming-Sin Pierre, a researcher of government at Harvard University, says Beijing's brand of authoritarian politics is spawning a dangerous mix of crony capitalism, rampant corruption, and widening inequality. In conclusion, true prosperity involves the happiness, well-being, and freedom of its people. And ultimately, it's the people who drive a country towards success, and their liberties hold value. Although these issues, such as corruption and poor quality of life, are not isolated to countries with limited freedoms, a country limiting freedoms is almost bound to have these issues. And I believe the only solution for these people to escape these oppressive systems is to stand up to their government and demand change. Although this may be a high-risk job, it is high risk and high reward, as after the solution is implemented, the country will likely prosper with economic growth and stability. And I believe this is the only solution and that will save the people from the oppression of their government.
Terrific.
Now we're at the big one.
Terrific. Thanks, Maddox. If you would detach so that Landon can connect, I'll ask you your questions, okay? So for the first one, did your research ended up going in a different direction than you originally expected? Tell us a little bit about that.
It kind of went in the same direction, and I anticipated that civil freedoms would be beneficial, but it kind of went in a different direction as I discovered the problems that came without having it, and they were not just less wealthy, and the countries were not just less wealthy, but they also suffered from corruption, and the people of this country were living in much worse conditions.
Fantastic. What additional questions emerged from your research as a result of what you read?
Another question that emerged was whether there were any other solutions, as this is the only solution I found in these papers, and it's the only one in these papers. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what additional questions emerged as you worked through your research?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was another solution that was less risky for these people, but it is still unanswered, and I hope that there is a solution that is found that is more easily made.
Okay, terrific, thank you.